Hey, good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on in to Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. We are powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and also sponsored by our friend Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. Claibs, doubleheader yesterday. Did you enjoy your day off on Saturday, though?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. Had a great meal with some relatives, ran into some other friends. I was hanging out Saturday night, and it was cool. I was scheduled to go to this one restaurant, Ruth's Chris in Chesterfield. They lost power. As a matter of fact, still part of the valley doesn't have power. So my good friend Andy Piatoso at Cafe Napoli, I called him. I said, "Hey, listen, man, I got some people in town. Is there any way I can get in?" Because I just talked to him the day before or 2 days before, and they were looking for a big Father's Day rush for dinner. He was able to get me in and had a great meal, sat in the bar, had a good meal, good friends, good family, and ran into some other people. And we sat there and were riveted to the game, basketball game, and watching Kevin Durant. And so it was a good night. I enjoyed it.
We're going to get into we'll get into the NBA stuff because I've been locked into it as the rounds go. It's funny how with the NHL I will be locked in when the Blues are in there in the first round or so. If the Blues get knocked out early, my interest kind of wanes a bit. But the NBA, completely the opposite. I've been locked in. I've gotten my kid locked into some of these games too. And Durant missed a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, really by inches there in regulation. But we will we'll get into that and talk about the Final Four in both of those leagues. But quickly, we don't need to spend much time on the Cardinals. We don't. And if you want to hear Cardinal stuff, Rammer and I, really right before, about a half an hour ago, Rammer and I recorded today's Daily Cards. We recapped the series. We talked about John Mozeliak's interview with Derek Gould in the Post-Dispatch. If you've had a chance to read that, go check it out and see what he had to say. The president of baseball operations had to say to Derek on Saturday after the rain out or after the game was called and they moved it on to Sunday. 3 of 4 to the Braves. They were not a good team. They have their issues the same way the Cardinals do. I'm sure they are just rejoicing over winning 3 out of 4 this weekend on Atlanta, hoping that can restart their season. But for the Cardinals, it really was just a punch in the gut for them.
It was. And, just like the Braves are popping champagne corks, that's the way we felt after the Cardinals swept the Miami Marlins. But, Joe, when you're a 500 team, you're going to have these days. You're going to have these situations. And you're hoping that this will be the thing that turns a corner for you. And then just when you think you got it right, then something else happens. And I think yesterday was a good example. You hang 9 runs on them in the first game. Waino's really good. And then you come back the next game and you can't score. What do you have, 2 hits, 3 hits? That's what happens in a 500 season. And it's frustrating. And it pisses people off. When you win a lot, everybody's like, hey, everything's great with the world. Or we're tweaking the lineup. When you're really bad, you just say, well, look at them. They are who they are. But, man, when you're 500, it's something about the whole smell of a 500 team that really puts people in a bad mood.
Yeah, and it hurts, too, when you do see that 9-1 win. Because you see home runs by both Goldschmidt and Arenado. Second time that's happened this year. And you get a little selfish with it and you just go, why can't they do this every game? Why can't they do this once a week? Why not once a week? Can those two not have those big games like we saw them have and, be those 3-4 hitters that you want in this lineup? And then what really hurts is you see that game and then just an hour later you go off and you play another 7-inning game where it's 1-0. That's what really frustrates the hell out of fans because it's one thing to wait from day to day. It's one thing to go, okay, hey, you know what? Wainwright pitched really well on Saturday. Let's see what KK does on Sunday. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to go, Hey, Wainwright, shut him out Sunday afternoon. All right, Sunday night. Oh shit, 1-0. Okay, back to that team. No, all momentum from that afternoon game lost.
And you are spot on, because I'm saying, all right, Wayno goes all the way. Bullpen's rested. You only need KK to go through the order maybe twice. It's a 7-inning game. You got some guys swinging the bat well. It just set up perfectly for the Cardinals to get on a run, and all of a sudden they go south. KK was pretty good. He gave up a home run. So it just kind of blew you away and how quickly you could lose it. And I think what's even more frustrating, when you look at how many veterans are on this team, whether it's Goldschmidt or Yachty or Wayno or Arenado, and now Wade LeBlanc and Andrew Miller, guys who've been around for a while. And so this isn't a bunch of young kids. This isn't the Pittsburgh Pirates who is just feeling their way through the season. These are all guys who are good players and have been good players for a long time. And I don't even know if they have an explanation on why it is what it is. But it's frustrating for a lot of reasons. I think one of the other things is frustrating. Mike Schilt doesn't have a lot of alternatives, okay? I mean, other than Edmundo Sosa, the bench is giving you nothing this year. You're playing guys where you look at Carpenter and DeYoung, guys who aren't playing up to their expectations, let alone anyone else's. And it's just little things like that that just elude you. And, we can talk pitching all day. We know what that situation is. But I'm out of words, man.
So I'm sure that you read part or most of what Derek and John Mozeliak talked about. You had a 2-part interview with Mo last week as well. Did those two conversations seem to match a lot of what Derek you got as well? And how did you read? What kind of thoughts did you have after talking to him and reading that?
Well, I sense frustration. Because he thought this team would do better. The injuries obviously have had an impact, but I think the other frustration is he can't do a deal. He doesn't have enough assets to really get something. And I've been talking about this last week or two. You got to find pitching for next year too. So you can't just rent a guy. You have to have a guy that's under control, where you've got a contract and he can be part of your rotation next year. Because think about this. Other than Flaherty, you've seen enough of Carlos. KK is just a guy. John Gant probably is better suited to be in the bullpen. And you'll have Dakota Hudson back off of Tommy John, so they'll take him real slow. And you just don't have any other answers. And then there's Adam Wainwright, who'll be 40 years old soon. So you have to go out and get a 2 or 3 starter and stick him in the rotation next year, because what you currently have isn't going to get it done. And anybody who's watching this, don't even bring up Liberatore's name, okay? He's not even close to being ready. So let's try and figure another way to make this thing work.
I was just about to ask you if
he
you
and
thought we
Nolan
were going to see Matthew Liberatore at any point this season.
No, I don't think so.
It was literally the thing. It was on the tip of my tongue. As soon as you stopped talking, I was about to ask you if you thought we would see Liberatore.
So here's the question, though: what has anyone seen anywhere that would lend you to think he's ready to pitch in the major leagues? What numbers have you seen?
I don't know if it's so much the numbers or anything. I just think it's looking at, what do you have in your organization? What do you have here?
We don't have anything ready.
And that's what, and you're and you throw out the name, you throw out Oviedo and Gant, who right now, if you're sitting there and you're looking at the whiteboard in Mo's office and it says 2022 rotation up there, Flaherty's number 1. And honestly, right now, Gant and Oviedo are probably the next 2 names up there before Dakota Hudson.
Yeah, you may be right. But I don't think Gant. I think the Gant experiment is probably taking its course. I don't think he's.
Right now, as you look through the organization, that's probably what is there.
That's why I'm saying you got to go outside the
Right.
organization.
Exactly. So, and that's where you kind of have to go next with that and figure out what exactly there is to do. But coming up next, you do have a 2-week stretch that should put you back into any kind of playoff talk, back into the division lead, back into a wild card lead. You have Claibs. I've Rammer and I joke about it all the time. Whenever they have played the Rockies or the Pirates this year, I've called for a sweep. I've said nothing outside of a sweep would be that's if you don't sweep them, it's a disappointing series.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've said that. You now have 13 straight games where you look at it and you go, you should sweep those next 4 series. Where, yes, a 13-game winning streak is ridiculous, but Claibs, I want to see a 13-game winning streak.
I think what's acceptable is winning 11 out of 13. Here's why. You
need to go listen to today's daily cards, because that's exactly what I predicted over the next 13 days was 11-2. And Rammer and I were betting something on it because he said 8-5.
Well, he's looking at the 500 team.
Yeah.
And that's why I can see why he would say that. But I also look at this. You think the Cardinals can make, hey, have you seen Milwaukee's schedule?
They have the easiest schedule in baseball right now. And
they might as well be playing Lindenwood, okay? And that's no slap to Lindenwood, but, I mean, they're not playing anybody. So even when you think you can make some hay, Milwaukee's probably in a more enviable position. Although I'm going to say this. I'm gonna back off a little bit for this reason. Now that we're going to start checking guys as far as pitching is concerned, I'm going to make this prediction now. There are going to be some guys you're going to be surprised at how they get their asses handed to them here soon.
You're talking about
there's some teams
what aspect are you talking about here?
Because they won't be able to load it up.
Oh, you're talking about the spider tack and everything. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some significant changes with certain teams.
How do you think that's going to affect some of the Cardinal pitching? I'm not asking you to name names. I'm not asking I'm asking for. I'm asking just as an overall culture. Do you think that's something that'll happen here with the Cardinals clubhouse?
No, they've had extensive discussions, official, unofficial discussions about if you're doing it, you got to stop, period. And I was talking to a player recently, and I said, what about, he said, nobody's using it. He said, and he said, that's maybe one of the reasons why we were bitching as much as we were, because we don't have anybody that's using it. And I think what's really unfortunate is that, as of today, that Giovanni Gallegos has not talked to Major League Baseball about his cap.
Really?
They have not said a word.
And they sealed that thing up and they sent it in, and we're talking, that was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I say that to say, watch certain teams here in the next month or so and watch certain pitchers. And you may see some changes.
You've already seen the spin rate just drop significantly all throughout baseball. I do not understand. And this is coming from, I never messed around with any of that stuff when I played. It wasn't around. I mean, you didn't have spider tack or whatever that pitchers used. But I was talking to Ricky Horton about this. I had him on Weekend Joe last week, and we were talking about just the idea of having something stuck to your hands that way. And I don't understand how any pitcher can control where the ball's going if that ball is stuck to their hand for a fraction of a hundredth of a second more, how that affects anything. And Ricky was talking about how he didn't even use rosin back when he played. He didn't even like having that on his hands. So, and he was saying the same thing, just having glue. I mean, the ball glued to your hand and trying to pitch it is just, it's a foreign concept to me.
Well, I know when I was in college, I played with a guy who used it. It was a concoction is what it was. And he was really damn good. Okay. He got drafted and he hurt himself, but his stuff moved so much. And he knew what he was doing. And that was 40 years ago. when we were fooling around with it. So I mean, it does. You know what? It will give you a grip, not necessarily for anything other than just because, like the way they rub up balls sometimes, or the balls are so slick, you don't really have control. Yeah. This basically gives you a little bit more firm of a grip. And you know, you're not using it in the middle of the ball. You're really just using it on the seams. You know, I know some people think there's this big smudge mark on the side of the ball, on the horseshoe side of the ball, or horseshoe part of the ball. But that's not the case. You want to get it in the grip. You want to get it in the seams because that's really where the grip really comes into play.
Yeah. So it's Tigers, Pirates, Diamondbacks, and Rockies. Those are the next 4 series that the Cardinals have up going into July. 13 games against 4 of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. A chance to make some ground, a chance to get some life back into the clubhouse as they move into the month of July. Before we get away from baseball talk here, quickly, just a feel-good story from the weekend. I don't know if you saw Joey Votto and what took place in San Diego. What was it? A little girl about 4 or 5 years old,
6 years old.
Yeah, was a huge Joey Votto fan and went to her first ever baseball game. And Joey Votto got ejected in the first inning of the game. Not only did Joey Votto send her a ball, apologizing for getting ejected, but then the next day, the Reds brought her back. The Reds got her, or the Padres, they worked together. They got her tickets and brought her back to the game, and she got to meet Joey Votto and get his autograph at the game. Just a one of those feel-good stories if you hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. And Joey Votto seems, as much as I know he made some snide remarks towards the Cardinals a few weeks ago.
You know what? Was it the Cardinals or was it the fans? See, I think people kind of misunderstood that. I don't think he was directing it at the players. I think he was directing it at the fans.
Well, he made comments nonetheless, but and for the years that he has spent in Cincinnati has been an enemy of the Cardinals, but all around probably one of the best guys, best people in baseball that I know you've had a chance to talk to him probably a handful of times.
Yeah, I find him to be refreshing. He's gone through a lot of things in his career off the field. I'm not saying that he did anything negative, but he just had some issues going on. But I enjoy him. I think he's good for the game. He's different. There was an article written in The Athletic maybe a month ago. Maybe I shared it with you. That was kind of fascinating, the quirks that he possesses. And he can flat out hit, man. Now, granted, he's not hitting like he used to. But, man, he was raking. I mean, he was a guy that you knew was good for 2 hits a night. He didn't have many slumps. He was a good player and still is a good player. He's just at the end of his career.
We will take a break. When we come back, move away from some of this baseball talk, get into the big news.
We're done with the baseball.
We are done with the baseball. I'm looking here at my list. Yeah, I got no baseball. I got nothing left for you baseball-wise here on the list, but we'll be right back to talk about the big news in the world of sports right after this.
St. Louis Acura has the best inventory in the Midwest, like the all-new 2022 Acura MDX. It earned the highest safety award from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Get 1.9% financing for up to 60 months and $1,000 in loyalty conquest offers. Or get 0% financing on the redesigned 2021 TLX for up to 36 months and $2,500 in loyalty conquest offers. St. Louis Acura, becoming better than ever for you.
Back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, powered by our friends at Ameren, Illinois, and Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. Hey, coming up this week on Claibs Online, Dr. Rick has another one of his episodes, one of his podcasts. You and the doctor sit down and talk with the Hall of Famer Ozzie Smith, talking about his history of rotator cuff injuries and just how he kind of had to overcome that for the years and years that he put in here in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's different. You know, I mean, we're not talking about all time this and who was that. He talks about, you know, how you deal with injury and what he had to do. And you think about it, that was a long time ago, and he had obviously a great career. So we had a chance to discuss that and some other things regarding the game. So I would strongly urge people, especially parents, to check it out because they may see something in themselves, or certainly their youngsters that they can relate to. So check it out. It'll be popping up later this week.
So the big news from today, earlier this morning, the Supreme Court ruled against the NCAA in a landmark antitrust case that specifically challenged the association's ability to have national limits on benefits for athletes that are related to education, but more broadly, had raised doubts about its ability to limit benefits at all. The ruling will end the association's nationwide limits on education-related benefits that athletes can receive for playing college sports. So athletes playing D1 men's or women's basketball or both subdivision football will be able to receive benefits from their schools that include cash or cash equivalent awards based on academics or graduation. College athletes can start getting paid.
Yeah, and I think the biggest indicator on how right this is, when you get the Supreme Court to vote 9-0, they can't even agree on where the restroom is in the courthouse, okay? But they came together on this particular subject. Now, it's going to change the landscape of college sports. There's no question about it. And there are going to be some people that won't be part of this. There will be other people that will have their hearts broken because they think little Johnny should be getting paid too. Well, little Johnny just probably may not get offered a scholarship, and I think that they're going to have to really think about this. We're going to have later this week Bob Lattenville, a prominent sports agent. He represents a lot of universities as well, very familiar with the NCAA rules and regs. And we're going to get his thoughts on it and just kind of see what he thinks is going to take place. And I think one of the things we have to take into account, this is not going to happen overnight, okay? So this is something that's going to take some time to figure out. But, basically all bets are off. And I think the universities are going to have to redefine what their obligations are to the student. Are they going to pay students like they're employees, which means that, they're going to have benefits? Does this mean maybe the players or the athletes form a union to negotiate, collectively bargain some things? There are a lot of things that are going to come into this, and we won't have all the answers in one weekend or maybe 1 year.
Yeah, it does seem like this is something that will take some time, and maybe you start to see, I know there's been talk for years about the NCAA just going away as a whole and college sports kind of finding a new way to work, a new way to function. And maybe we start to see, we've heard of these super conferences for so long. There are a lot of different directions that this can go over the next few years. And I think one of the things too, I know people are immediately interested in is about video games. And I think you'll start to see the college football and college basketball video games start to make a larger comeback too with that.
I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. I know that that's one of the reasons why they got their asses hauled into court in the first place.
Yeah, at O'Bannon.
Video games. Yeah. But I think that's such a small drop in the bucket with regard to the nationwide impact it's going to have. One of the things we have to take into account, just because you're a player doesn't mean somebody wants to pay you, okay? So I know when they talked about the likeness deals that people could sign for, and yeah, they might want to sign like a good receiver or quarterback, but what about that offensive lineman? So there's got to be a base of what athletes could receive, and then it's up to you to build on top of that, I think. But you're going to see agents involved in this at some point. The family lawyer certainly is going to be involved. This thing is just so massive as far as the tentacles that will reach out and touch people with regard to how things are going to be done from this point on.
And it's built up over a year. This is something that they have been fighting for years and years. So all of these things that we're talking about, this just didn't happen overnight. And now people are going to get together and say, oh, what can we do with this? I think it's going to be more an issue of, okay, what are the priorities in this? Like which of all the ideas that we have come up with over the last 20 years, which ones are going to be the easiest to make happen? which ones are going to be the most beneficial to the players, and then where do we go from there? Which ones do we want to move to the top of the list? Because it's easy just to say, okay, hey, that 5-star recruit quarterback, let's give him money. Let's hand him cash. But it's everything else. It's the ones lower than that you now have to start figuring out about. And then players that think they're worth more. And you see the transfer portal open up the way that it has. How is that going to play in to where some of these guys go and how that works?
Yeah. And the NCAA and the universities are going to have to come up with a new set of rules about how you're eligible. Obviously you have to be in a good academic standing. And when you're compensated, is it going into a trust fund of some sort while you're on campus, or are you paying a guy twice a month? I mean, again, there's so many ways to look at this. And I think everybody might want to take a deep breath and just look at all the things that aren't going to unfold, because you don't want to make a snap decision and all of a sudden you try to set a precedent that you find out it's going to be void within a month. I mean, so everybody just step back. And for those parents out there who think their kid is about to get paid, think again. I don't know if that's going to be the case for everyone.
Right.
I mean,
there's parents out there of 9-year-olds that think that their kids are about to get paid at the Division I level.
The worst thing that's happened to sports in our society over the last 10 years, 15 years are parents who have these grandiose ideas that, I'm going to get little Johnny this and do that, and he's going to play select this, and I'm going to get on the coach's ass. And, they have almost ruined this thing.
Claibs,
and there are a lot of kids.
My son turns 8 in 2 weeks. And this is the first year that we've got him into stuff, and we're just doing rec league baseball, and I can already see it in some of that, where my biggest thing is, you having fun? Okay, great. Awesome. You're 7 right now. Have fun. Enjoy this. None of this matters towards whatever's going to happen, 10 years from now, and 5 years from now in your life. Just go out there and have fun and make friends.
I had a conversation the other day with Chris Pronger, and he's got a couple of kids that are pretty good athletes, but they don't play hockey. One's a basketball player, and he had some injuries. And so it didn't look like he was going to continue to play. But he told me that when his kids are playing hockey, he said, hey, you guys look like you aren't having fun with this. And they're like, nah, not really. And they're like, all right, we're not going to do it anymore. And I was the same way with my kids. I only had 2 rules: play hard, have fun. I didn't care about the score. I didn't care if you won. I didn't care if you lost. I wanted you to have fun. And if you weren't having fun, then we weren't going to do it anymore, because you're not going to waste my time either. But you have this set of parents, man, that just it's unfortunate is what it is, because they have this notion of saying, well, my kid played with Bradley Beal, and my kid was in grade school, played on Bradley Beal. They played a little league basketball together, so he should be good enough to play in the NBA. It doesn't work that way, and I see parents now talking about their kids playing a select football or the 7-on-7 or some of these club teams that they now have. And they think that their kids are all going to go play at Alabama because one kid on the team was good. It doesn't work that way. So
I heard 2 of the dads talking about their kids playing on some football team already. And I'm thinking, these kids are 7, 8 years old. Why the hell are they playing football? And it just takes everything for me just to sit there as far away from some of the other parents.
Well, I'm going to give you some advice. This is what I did as a parent. I never sat with the other ones.
No.
I have one of my buddies, Vernon Buckner. His kid was on the team too, on one of my kids' teams. And we would sit in the far corner of the gym by ourselves. I would not sit near a parent because, and I'm not saying all parents are bad, because they're not, but I didn't want to hear all the foolishness, and my wife at the time would sit there, and then all of a sudden she started moving closer to where I was sitting. So find a soft, quiet spot. No matter what the sport it is, don't sit with the parents.
I've already gotten that part down. That was number 1 for me. Was we're gonna sit over here. We're just gonna sit over here and we're just gonna hang out. You mentioned Bradley Beal. You mentioned the youth basketball. Let's talk a little NBA, because we're down to the Final Four now in the NBA. Already one game of the Western Conference Finals has been played, and we know as of yesterday what the Eastern Conference Finals is going to be. I am all for. You know what? I want to see Atlanta versus Phoenix in my NBA Finals this year. Ratings and markets be damned. That's what I want to see. But I just think it's great right now that you're about to get Atlanta versus Milwaukee. And it was Chris Rose of he's with the NFL Network, used to be with MLB, now with John Boy Media. He tweeted out last night that if it was Atlanta versus Milwaukee in the first round, those games would be on at 5 p.m. on NBA TV. And now that's the Eastern
I disagree. Conference. See, I had this conversation earlier with Frank. You know, 3 of the 4 teams that are in this thing are top 10, top 12 TV markets anyway. So in Milwaukee,
where's Atlanta?
Atlanta's one of the biggest cities in the country.
Are they a top? I didn't think they were top 10 in the market.
Check them out.
What's Phoenix? I thought Phoenix
is right there too. I mean, so these aren't this isn't St. Louis we're talking about here, okay? These are major market cities that these games are going into. LA speaks for itself.
Right.
Milwaukee is a small market, okay? I get that. But these other 3, the other 2, those are legitimate major markets. So for everybody who has this annual put down of the NBA at this time of the year, you better think again. And I'm going to say this right now. The both leagues are now in their Final Four run right now, okay? Go look at the TV numbers and see who's doing what. The TV numbers in St. Louis are better for the NBA than they are the NHL, and we have an NHL team.
And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show today, is that my interest level, when it's the Blues in the playoffs, I'm following every series. I'm looking at every series. I'm looking ahead to see who they might play, this and that. And in the first round of the NBA, I'm like, okay, see how things shake out. Blues get eliminated, done. I had to look up today to see what the series was at. The 2 series were at in the East and the West for in the NHL today. I had to go take a look at that because I had no clue. NBA locked in. I'm dead set on these next NBA games in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Don't care what cities they're in. Don't care what the ratings are. I'm ready for the NBA for these next few weeks.
So I'm at dinner Saturday night, and the NBA game is on, and a friend of mine says, "What do you think the hockey game is going? What do you think the score is in that game?" And I just looked at him and I said, "You want to try and change that channel and see what happens to you?" I mean, St. Louis is a very good Blues town, okay, hockey team town. But when it comes to nobody cares about hockey. Now, me personally, I will still watch it. I still enjoy the game. But when it comes to the ratings, and you can check them out, I guarantee you the NBA will destroy the NHL when it comes to ratings. And again, we have a team in St. Louis. We don't have an NBA team. So somebody's watching it. And going back to your original point, I think it's good for the league to have new teams in it, especially teams in bigger markets like we're seeing.
You're learning about new players. I mean, you are in some of these, you are learning about some of these new players. I had Chris Domino on over the weekend, and we were talking about Trae Young. And one of the things that I brought up with it, because we were talking about some of the younger talent, and I go back to, I have my kid watching these games with me right now. He's 8, he's almost 8. He doesn't have a favorite player in the NBA. When he does, that player's not going to be LeBron. That player's not going to be Steph Curry. They're at the ends of their careers now. When you look at how old they are and where they are at the point in their careers, what you're watching now is somebody like a Trae Young on TV. And you're seeing Trae Young do what he's doing out there every night. Or you're seeing, I know he's being eliminated, but you're looking at Luka Doncic. And you're looking at that and you're going, that's the future of the league right here. Those are the players you want to see in these later rounds of the playoffs to see what they can do and see how, watch them showcase their talents and see how they're, what becomes of their teams.
Well, what about a guy like Devin Booker? I mean, here's a guy that's playing in Phoenix, West Coast time, basically. So we normally don't see him unless you're a real fan. They don't get on TV very much, although they will start to. There's so many guys that are like that we're seeing. You mentioned Trae Young. He's another one. Has anybody been watching Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks? We know about Giannis. I mean, every team has got a good player that most people wouldn't know because they didn't watch him in college or maybe he's from another country. But I think this is what makes the NBA fun. And here's another thing that's going to hurt the hockey. You have Montreal that doesn't show up on the ratings, in the ratings book because it's in another country. You have Vegas. They're going to do well. There's no doubt about that. The Islanders will do well because they're New York. And then the other team is who escapes me right now. I can't think of who it is. Tampa. Tampa's in Florida. Former Stanley Cup, they're current Stanley Cup champions. Yeah. So, and I don't know what kind of bump they're going to get. South Florida hockey is starting to come around a little bit more, but they will pale in comparison to what the NBA numbers are going to show.
Yeah, and I saw somebody point out that since LeBron went out west and finally went to, because you look, for years, it was either the Cavs or the Heat. So whatever team LeBron was on for, 7-8 years, played in the NBA Finals each and every year. Now that he's gone out west, you've got Toronto. Last year you had Miami again, but a very different looking Miami team. Mm-hmm. And this year you're either getting Atlanta or Milwaukee. So you're seeing more and more teams. You're seeing some teams get changed in and out now of what you've been used to for so many years.
And Milwaukee hasn't won since 71. Yeah, 71, I believe.
Atlanta's never won it. The last time the Hawks won a championship, they were in St. Louis.
Yeah. And, I want to correct something. I know that they were talking about Durant with the most points in a game 7 in a playoff series. That's not true. It's Bob Cousy. He had 50 against the Celtics in a game 7 for the Hawks. So I don't know where they got that information from. And I meant to tweet that out that they got it wrong. But still in all, I'm going to go back to the fact that the teams that are in this thing have never won it, which I think is going to make it even more fun. And there's going to be another city that's going to have something to, stick their chest out about. And I think that's good for the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were tweeting a lot yesterday watching those NBA games. You got on your phone. You got on your phone. You got on a little bit of a roll.
I was having fun yesterday. And if you notice, I'm not a malicious person on Twitter. I'm not trying to kill anybody. I'm just making observations. And most of the things I say in a complimentary manner. And then the other times I just have to point out things. Like A-Rod talked about the catcher, Andrew Kisner. He said he made a throw like a shortstop. Yeah, hey, A-Rod, he was a shortstop. So maybe that's why. But it's not like I'm killing anybody. I leave that to other people.
I was going to say, you had one that yesterday that people were wondering who it was about.
Oh, so man,
it was a little cryptic that you threw out
what,
there.
Man? I'm going to tell you something. You will not believe how many text messages and private messages I was getting Twitter-wise. Is it such and such? Is it? Yes, I had it they were on Twitter they thought it was Edmonds and Iggy.
I had somebody ask me if it was about Iggy, and I said, I don't know. I haven't asked Claibs. I can promise you it's not about Iggy.
No, there is no slap at Iggy, but that just wasn't somebody that came to mind. And then after they said it, I was like, well, I wonder how they even arrived at that. I mean, I don't get a chance to listen to them that much because I'm normally working out at that time. But I was like, well, damn, I didn't know Iggy had it like that. But it's not him.
He hadn't even done anything. He hadn't even done anything to be deserving of that.
Yeah,
so
and the same with Evans.
The shrapnel from that.
Yeah.
But you did tweet about Philadelphia, the Sixers. Is that over with? Are we done with that experiment? Is that going to be blown up?
Yeah, I think they have to. Listening to Doc Rivers last night saying, I have no idea, when they thought, could he be the point guard? Could Simmons be on a championship team? He said, I can't answer that. That should tell you all you need to know. Elton Brand's a GM, so I'm sure he'll come up with something that'll work. But I don't see that team staying together. Now, let's put it this way. I don't see Ben Simmons on that team.
It is just amazing to me how somebody that athletic
But he's
is
really
that
not
afraid
though.
to shoot the ball.
He's really not though.
But
You know
he's
what?
in the NBA. He's athletic.
But he's
He's
not.
playing
He's not. But here's the mistake that we've all made. We assumed he was going to get better because he had the size,
Mm-hmm.
and we always, when we see guys that are 6'8" and above, we all think they can be Magic Johnson. He's not anybody. Okay, you can't compare him to anyone because he can't shoot, he can't make a free throw. I don't know how he made the all defensive team. I think he's a guy that we put too much stock in potential because he came from another country. And we thought he was going to bring these very unique skills, and we come to find out he doesn't have any skills. Whatever he was doing and whatever league he was playing in, he wasn't making himself better. He was more of a man against boys. And I think the same is going to be said about the ball kids. I know he won the Rookie of the Year, but, if you looked around, how many other rookies were having that sort of impact this year?
Right. Yeah, it's we still have a few weeks left before we get to that part of the off season. Going to enjoy the Final Four that is already one game underway. The NBA gets a night off tonight. Back at it tomorrow with game 2.
What am I going to watch tonight? What's on tonight? No basketball. Do we have a hockey game?
If the NHL was smart, they'd have a game tonight, right?
Yeah. Let me pull this up while
you got Islanders and Lightning tonight at 7.
Okay. Other than that, you don't have anything else. Cardinals aren't playing. You just mentioned no NBA. Maybe a little College World Series.
Is that what round are they in for that?
I don't know. They're in Omaha, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that should just be getting started.
No, it's on the way. They had their first round of games this weekend.
Did they? Okay,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen anything about that. I'm done watching wrestling until they're back in front of live crowds too. So I can't even sit here and suggest Monday Night Raw to you, Claibs. That's how bad of a product it's been lately that I'm not even going to sit here and suggest that to you on a Monday night when there is no other sports to watch.
Let me ask you a wrestling question.
Go ahead. Shoot.
So how far back do you go as far as the history of it?
First pay-per-view that I watched was WrestleMania.
No, not
13.
pay-per-view. The first time you actually watch wrestling.
That would have been around WrestleMania 13. So you're talking 24 years ago. But working with Animal for 2.5, 3 years, I did have to go back and do some research from there. So you're getting mid 80s. You're getting mid 80s.
So you miss Ric Flair.
I watched a lot of Ric Flair, but yeah, I didn't watch any Wrestling at the Chase or anything like that. Which, by the way, Wrestling at the Chase is coming back at the end of August.
I saw that. Now they're going to wrestle at the Chase, or are they going to show?
They are
okay.
August 28th and 29th. I actually have it's an all-woman show on August 28th,
All
and
right,
then they're having the NWA is having their show on August 29th. The woman that's putting together the all-woman show, I'm actually interviewing her tomorrow. Mickey James is her name. I'm interviewing her tomorrow. That'll be out on Friday.
The National Wrestling Alliance.
Yes, it is. Do you know who owns the National Wrestling Alliance now?
I don't know.
Billy Corrigan, the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, I guess I did hear. Yeah. Well, what does he own? He just owns the title?
He owns the he is the owner, whatever of it. It happened through lawsuits. There were a lot of lawsuits going on, and they finally just said, you know what, screw it. You have it, we're done. And he's like, okay, cool.
Sam Muchnick was the head of the NWA when he promote bouts here in St. Louis, and it was fun, man. I know that Channel 11 would every now and then show reruns of some of those matches, and they were primitive in their own way. I saw one recently. Ric Flair was in St. Louis, and he was being interviewed by the late Larry Matysek, who kind of kept wrestling alive in St. Louis for a while. Mm-hmm. And he was just vintage Ric Flair, man. He was talking the talk. It was amusing to see. And then when you look back at some of those guys who actually were pretty good wrestlers, it was a great era. And I'm happy to see that they're going to try and do something with Wrestling at the Chase. So roller derby can't be far off then, huh?
I got to imagine. I mean, I know there's women roller derby teams here in St. Louis, so they might as well utilize it.
Well, I want to see them on a bank track, though, not at a skating rink. I want to see them on a bank track where the angle has a lot to do with the strategy of it. So now I'm really dating myself. All right, are we done? We got
I was going to
anything
say,
else?
the only thing we got to wrap up here, I was going to say, how much of the U.S. Open you watched this weekend?
Yeah, I watched a fair share of it. I found it to be interesting because the so-called names of the sport weren't around. I mean, everybody thought, well, Phil, this is his backyard. He should do.
Yeah.
He couldn't even find. I knew Phil was in trouble because when I turned it on that morning, he was playing on Sunday. Yeah, I was like, yeah, well, we don't have to worry about him. But no, it was entertaining. John Rahm is a guy who's playing really well right now, and I know Frank and I were talking about this earlier today. The problem that we have with the PGA, there are some very good golfers, but the consistency isn't there. And my point being, all those so-called name guys you couldn't find in the top 10 finish. Every week it's a different group of guys. It's not like a few years ago where you knew that certain people were going to be there. You knew Sergio was always going to finish not first. You knew some other guys were going to be in the hunt. But now it's a different group of guys that are playing. And I think that's good for the game in one sense, although I think it hurts the game where you don't have a regular to follow that is going to be part of a Sunday afternoon event. So, it's fun. I'm amazed at the power that these guys continue to show as far as length. But overall, I thought it was a fun tournament and good for John Rahm, who's gone through a lot this year.
Yeah, I won a little money on DraftKings for just threw a team together at 8 p.m. Wednesday night because I saw there was an opening in the league that Jay put together for all the majors. Threw a team together and finished 9th place. So that's that gave me reason to watch it yesterday. And then, hey, before we get going, we'll talk more next week about the Olympics as that's coming up. And we're starting to see, I know one local kid already made it, the diver, Tyler Downs. He's going to the Olympics, a St. Louis guy. But you're seeing more and more of the local products there. Speaking of local products, Hassan French got a tryout with the Tennessee Titans to be a tight end. So another thing to follow for a SLU Billiken basketball player trying to convert to an NFL tight end. Something to keep an eye on as NFL camps start to open up.
I wish him the best. I think he'll have his work cut out for him. I'll tell you, it doesn't make a difference. There's a lot of big guys who can't.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that'd be a big tight end.
So this is many years ago. There's a gentleman by the name of Hassan Houston, went to U City, maybe the most explosive player St. Louis has ever seen when it came to scoring. And he went to Kansas initially, but they made one mistake. They brought in a guy from Wichita, Darnell Valentine, who played the same position. Well, you think about who's going to play, the guy from Kansas or the guy from St. Louis? Hassan left. He went to Bradley, where they won an NIT championship. Houston Rockets drafted him. I don't think he wasn't there long. And all of a sudden, the Chicago Bears called him. He makes the team as a defensive back. So back in those days, the final game of the season was always against the Chicago Bears for the football Cardinals. He injures his back in the final game of the season. I think it was 85. I'm almost certain it was 84 or 85, the year they won the Super Bowl. He injures his back, never played another down. And I always think about football players or basketball players transitioning to football. I'm surprised we don't see it more. There was a guy named Wiley Brown.
They're trying more and more. It's every year you're getting a couple that are going out there, or they're trying to make that conversion happen.
Well, Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Wiley Brown played at Louisville. He was on the national championship team in basketball. He ended up having a decent career in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Antonio Gates too. He played college basketball, didn't he? And then with another Hall of Fame career.
Yeah. So
with him. All right, so you got a lot going on this week. Off day for the Cardinals today. Back at it again tomorrow with 2 games on the road before they are back here at home this weekend for a 4-game series against the Pirates. Lots going on over at claibsonline.com between the Dr. Rick with Ozzie Smith interview that's coming up later this week. Daily Cards with me and Rammer every week. You have who are you talking to again about NCAA stuff?
Bob Lattenville.
That'll be coming up on the website as well. So plenty of stuff over at claibsonline.com. Check it all out as we are done with another week of Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. homeloanexpert.com. For Mike Claiborne, I'm Joe Roderick. Talk to you next week, everybody.
You know, the only thing faster than this supersonic golf cart are the closing times at thehomeloanexpert.com. Mortgage rates are in the twos, and we have a 21-day closing guarantee. Apply online today at thehomeloanexpert.com.